All right, Sylina Buehne, also known as Mama Bear, was born in the Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina. Her heritage is Scottish-Irish, which is
Tsalagi.
Cherokee.
It's like a sh.
Okay. There's Cherokee and Muscogee, which is Creek. She was passed the native traditions from her grandmother at a very young age, always keeping herself close to the great mystery. She spent time in Guatemala where she walked the shamanic altars with the 13 shaman elders who guided and taught her the traditional Mayan ways. For many years, Sylina trained with Brazilian shaman Carlos Sauer, or Brother Bear, who was adopted by Nelson Turtle of the Southern Cheyenne tribe. Taught in the Cheyenne ways, she was passed the bucket, or rites, to be a water pourer, or for prayer ceremonies, as well as given the turtle altar, representing the Cheyenne Sweat Lodge. After a vision during a Native American Sundance in South Dakota, a Lakota, Dakota, Nakota tribe, Sylina was charged by Chief Golden Light Eagle to take the Star Altar bundle back home to the North Georgia mountains. The Star Altar is the highest Sweat Lodge altar one can receive. With Chief's guidance, she replaced the turtle altar, taking the ceremony to a higher frequency. Sylina taught at Edgar Cayce Association for Research and Enlightenment and was a facilitator of the Robert Monroe Institute. She is also co-founder of Soul Medicine, Inc., a nonprofit organization that helps individuals that suffer from PTSD, addiction, anxiety, and much more. Weekly, Sylina counsels individuals that wish to deepen their spiritual walk, giving guidance and practical tools to utilize in their daily lives to attain their personal and spiritual goals. As a certified hypnotherapist, Mama Bear offers past life regression and healing sessions to assist her clients. Sylina is also a prolific yoga instructor, passing on the teachings given to her by her guru and teachers throughout her walk. Soul Medicine offers yoga teacher training certification and the Life Mastery Program for those wishing to grow spirituality and attain more mindfulness in their earthly walk. Welcome, Sylina, to my channel and our absolute perfect group that loves you.
Well, thank you. I was sitting there listening, and the whole time I was listening, I was like, who wrote that? Who wrote that? And I'm thinking, oh, that was good. And wait, what? It was beautiful. Thank you so much. It's such an honor.
Welcome. Yes, please share with us your amazing journey. I mean, you have, the last time we spoke, of course, we spoke for, I don't know how long it was. I know it was over an hour. And we just got off onto all these wonderful conversations. But please tell us more about your journey and what you intend to share with all of the members and guests here today.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. So first, I want to say Ampute Good Day, and that just says that I'm happy to see you here today. And I am going to do a little caveat to say I was always taught to introduce myself as I am just a humble woman learning and growing. So I am just like you. I am no different. My journey has been a very lifelong journey, as many of you also. And something that struck near and dear to my heart that I watched when I was young, because I was born into a family of addiction. If you know anything about indigenous ways or challenges, you'll know that addiction is one of those. And so my father was a Vietnam vet, and he came back from Vietnam and he was addicted to heroin and coke. And so I learned a lot about how to take my power back or own my power in a place where people would say there's no power, and learning how to tie that to frequency and really allow myself the ability to be in some intense situations that a lot of people would not have been able to move through and not had some emotional issues. Because I was able to stay focused on what frequency did, I was able to kind of stabilize my situation to the best of my ability. And so from a really young age, capturing that and understanding that and being able to share with people how to take their power back by knowing where their frequency is, understanding what affects their frequency, even understand what is frequency, because we know at this point science has validated everything is frequency, everything is energy. There's even our physicality. We don't have, people look at us and we look like we're solid, but it's because the eye's been trained to see it as solid. And enabling, once we know where our frequency is, what affects our frequency, then we get to decide those situations where we want to add our energy to, or allow it to add its energy to us and alter our own frequency. Because most of us, especially with what's going on in the world, most people are feeling extremely powerless. They feel like they're grabbing at power. And so their exchanges, when they're having exchanges with people, they're becoming a little bit more intense and heated. We also know that every major belief system that exists is saying this is the time of this tremendous change. Now I'm talking to a group that I don't have to convince any of you that we're in this time of great change. You all are very aware of it. As a matter of fact, you're so aware of it that that's why you're here. You're here because you're doing the same thing I am, the same thing Ellen's doing, and that is gathering up information and choosing to put our energy where we know it is going to drive the best result, instead of jumping in and being in that fear, anger, rage. We don't know, right? Do you know what the absolute truth is? Most people, if I'm speaking about truth and I'm speaking about frequency, we first have to define some things. And so my truth could be your lie, and your truth could be my lie, right? And the biggest example I can give of that is, think about what you believed 20 years ago. And think about what you believe today that is in contradiction to what you believed 20 years ago. So at that point, your truth was your truth. It was relative on your consciousness, which is directly tied to your frequency. And so if we know how to alter our frequency, and also how to not allow other people's frequencies to draw us into it, we can literally take our own power and begin to utilize it to truly live the life. If I ask any one of you that are on here, if I say, if you could, would you change what's going on being reflected in the world? Would you change the suffering? Would you change the pain? You're all going to say, well, yes, I want to change that. I want to change that. And then on the other side, you'll say, and I know somewhere deep down that I can make great changes out there. I'm speaking to a group that you're more conscious, you're more aware, you've been on this walk for a while, right? So you've gathered up information to know, wait a minute, I do have that power. If I believe it, the placebo effect. You're given a sugar pill, it said it's going to heal you. And all of a sudden, you're healed from stage 4 carcinoma, right? Well, what happened? It was your belief. Your belief affected your frequency. And your frequency, if it's at a more rapid rate, it tends to ward off illnesses, sicknesses. It tends to ward off even altered emotions, sadness. If I'm in a very elevated, let's talk about frequency from an emotional place for a moment. So I know many of you probably are familiar with Dr. Emoto, And Dr. Emoto, he studied water, and he placed intention into the water. He would talk to the water. He put notes on the water, and he then crystallized the water and noticed that the crystals of the water changed based on what he either introduced to it through his verbiage, through notes written on paper, through music, all of which are frequencies. So we have science that now agrees if I'm happy, we have actual machines that will pick up and say, this person's happy. She's in a happy state of beingness. They now can also look and say, so if this person is happy and there is this frequency point that is being generated from her or his pulse, from his field, his energetic field or auric field, then what would, if this is coming from humans, what would it be if we looked at a flower, let's say a rose? And what they began to find is that there were correlations, and there was a reason why when people were in love or wanted to express love, they would choose roses. And they found that roses and love actually in the same spectrum, they vibrated. And so you're a sensing, vibrating being, you're mostly energy, and you have water as your environment on the inside, your blood. I'm going to tie it all together at the end. So if you can follow me, I know I'm jumping around a little bit, but there's a reason that I'm doing that. So Dr. Emoto does this with water. And what he found is, Alan, if you can pop up that first slide. And when she pulls up the first slide, you're just going to see crystallized water, pictures of water that has been crystallized after there were certain things that were introduced into its frequency. And we know water now has memory. And so if I introduced into water love, and I focused my intention and my awareness on love, loving words, maybe I even played melodies or frequencies that would elicit the feeling of love, like Mozarts Symphony, or I thought of peace. These are all different viewpoints of how that water crystallized. So you can tell there's a difference between, let's say, Mozart's Symphony and thank you. And there's even a bigger difference between love, which is on top, and then I will kill you, which is on bottom. And so if your internal environment is mostly water, and water is an amplifier and it remembers everything, and we affect water by our words and what we're saying, or what we're listening to, or what we're participating in with our belief system. And we find that when you say things like, I will kill you, the crystal, the formation that is formed is not at all aesthetically pleasing. Now, if you tie that to your thoughts that are putting out a vibration, and every thought that you have, if it's more positive, it's filled with gratitude and love and happiness and joy, all of those beautiful feelings, euphoria, that is transmitting through your body, and it's affecting the cellular structure, but it's also affecting the genetic expression. And what I mean by that is we have inventors who have invented things like the Rife machine, which is driven off of frequency. And it is found that they can put in a frequency and find a radio wave. And use that radio wave to actually reduce tumors, kill cancers, all of these things, but they all stem back to frequency. And so if you know that by the way you speak to yourself, by what you listen to, by the conversations you have, that you are changing your cellular structure by the frequency that you're introducing into your own system by your own thoughts, your own vibrations, returning back to you. When I talk about that, we remember, if you're in around my age group, and even younger, if I say do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, da. And that has been tied to, again, hertz, which is frequency. And now you have all of these salvatio frequencies, these frequencies that they have found that when they introduce them, that it helps to alter your brainwave frequency. It helps to actually bring your heart into a more homeostasis place of being. So, Ellen, if you get to the next slide, this would be, again, just a depiction of introducing water into the frequency of, if you look on the upper left, you'll see it's 396 hertz. And what that formation, after being played that frequency, how that water actually structured itself. And it goes through this entire salvatio frequency scale so that you can see that when you are playing yourself certain frequencies, it can help liberate fear, right? Now, we think, wait, this is woo-woo. So I want to take it kind of out of the woo-woo for a moment. And I want to reference, there are studies on PubMed, and that's the National Library of Medicine. And they studied how frequency actually changed and altered gene expression. And there's a direct correlation. So that means that if you know that you're wanting to have the fullest expression of yourself and gain all of your power back, that means bring your frequency point up into a higher scale. And I don't like to say higher and lower because our minds get in there. But if I say, visualize seeing an opera singer, and that opera singer hits that very high note, and you see it hit the crystal, and the crystal actually shatters. And the reason why is that with the frequency, there is vibration. Even if it's non-detectable by you as a sensing being, they can be very light sensations that are outside of the ability, because we have a denser vibration to feel or to perceive. But if we know that what we consume with our eyes, with our ears, even what we consume with our mouth, affects our frequency, and we want to be at the highest state of our awareness, our consciousness grows as we evolve. And our frequency, that which we couldn't have hit before, let's say 20 years ago, because of where we were at astronomically in the solar system, we weren't able to do that, but now we are. This is the effect that you're looking at on your physical structure, on your water that's inside of you, and then how that water is affecting your tissues, your organs. it follows whether it's going to add health. Water carries oxygen. So all of this is about vibration. When most of you are familiar with krillin photography, and that's where there's special photography that you can pick up energy fields. And what they did is they started doing this with plants, and they did it with humans, and they've done it with water. They've done it with food. I want to show you, if you go to the next slide, Ellen, and you just, this is krillin photography of one water droplet with the intention of gratitude. So if you think about what you're drinking, we don't really think too much about stopping and holding on to that water and infusing it. A lot of people now put crystals in their water. Again, it's a way to raise the vibration of the water. And then when you drink it, thinking of this going throughout your entire system. And that gives a whole different idea of the power that you have to actually collect back your own power and to grow your power, and not in an ego way where, oh, I'm going to go out and I'm going to be better than someone, but in a way of, if we know that like frequency creates like frequency and attracts like frequency, and we know that according to all the belief systems, this is a time of great pivotal change, that like the Native American prophecies talk about the rainbow warriors. They talk about the blue kachina, the red kachina, right? All of these prophecies or legends or stories, and the way I was taught, these are our ancestors told these stories, and that when they're given to us, that we see when a time of great change is here, and that time is now. So if we as a group decide we're going to change our frequency, and we're going to have that intended and intention, but then we're going to use that increase in our own frequency to also send that out, which makes ripples upon ripples upon ripples out to infinity. And as we know, everything really is returned to us. It's like a boomerang effect. If we send out our energy in a certain way, it is returned to us. And we can say it in lots of different ways. You reap what you sow. The law of attraction, the law of manifestation, but it's all based on frequency. So if you just take a moment to intend gratitude into the water that you're getting ready to drink, and you take a sip of it, it changes the way in which the water behaves, because the water has memory. And because you just, again, showed a lot of gratitude, your own intention went into that water and raised its frequency. So, Ellen, if you'll flip to the next slide. Thank you so much. So this is, again, krillin photography, and it's based on food. Because when we get down to, if we're mostly frequency, and here's how to figure out where kind of our frequency is at, and here are the things that we can do to raise and increase our frequency. Every single one of you are going to say, if I say, do you want to walk around with more happiness and joy? Go ahead and raise your hand if you're going to say no. You're going to say yes. I want more joy, more happiness. So if we know that by krillin photography, that's picking up, again, the signature look at the difference between the cooked versus the raw. Now, again, I'm not saying you need to become a raw foodist and stop eating anything other than, what I'm saying is, if you do it with awareness, if you start bringing your awareness to your frequency, you can unlock all of the things the great yogis have said, the gurus have spoken about, my ancestors have talked about, your ancestors in some way talked about. And that is, you can literally have more control in your evolution. And so when people are grabbing at control in the world, because there's fear right now and there's a lot of it, and they're grabbing to control other people or things, the greatest control that we have is to control our own frequency, because that is what's rippling out. We are constantly transmitting, and we're also constantly receiving. And that is all frequency. You can look at there is a study, and this study was done by I'm just gonna, so I don't misquote. It was done in 1960, and it was done by a man named Max Planck, Planck, just in case you want to look it up, at an institute in Germany. And what he did is he took an underground bunker, and he wanted to know, if he cut off people from Earth's frequency, if it would affect them and how it would affect the human system. Because at that point, there's the Schumann resonance, right? We have science that backs up that, yes, there is this frequency pulse that the Earth gives off. Then there wasn't. So what he did is he built this underground bunker and built it with lead and concrete so nothing could come through. He placed students, volunteered. He placed them in this bunker, and within only a couple of days, they started having severe issues. They started having emotional issues, mental issues, health issues. And so what he did is he said, okay, I'm going to reintroduce Earth's frequency, which we know is at about a 7.83, or now an 8 around. He introduced that in without telling the students what he was doing. It's not like he had to say it, they couldn't see. He just reintroduced it, and immediately all of those things disappeared. So that led to further research that found that our body is connected to the Earth's frequency. Our body also gives off its own frequency, and when we have certain thoughts and we have certain emotions, it gives off a certain frequency. If you want to know, wait, this is a little too woo-woo, I'm just going to say, think for a moment. I just walked into a funeral home. Pay attention to what just happened. Now, think about, I just walked into a party. I'm seeing my friends. There's lots of happiness. There's joy. There's laughter. You naturally feel it. It's why when certain people come into a room, you can feel it. And when they leave a room, you can feel it on a positive or a not so positive scale. So when we talk about frequency, we also, sound is a part of frequency. Even when it's non-audible to the human ear, it's still a part of frequency. Now we know that we can levitate things through frequency. If you will go to the last slide for me.
Yes, I want to point out this one thing before we move from this slide, though, just for everyone to take note of the color of the auric field that exists around all of these objects of food. It is purple, and purple is the highest frequency. the absolute etheric highest frequency. I just wanted to point that out. I'll go ahead and move on.
No, I think that was great, because I say all the time, I say, listen, your body comes from the earth, which comes from stardust. So literally, you are driving around a skeleton that has skin of stardust, and what you consume is going to affect the frequency, which affects the ability to drive around that skeleton. And so if you look at it from that way and you say, I'm eating not because of, yes, you can put incredible combinations of food together. I'm a foodie. If you get me on food, we will just get off track in a whole different way. So let's kind of stay on track. But if you look at the food in which you're consuming and you begin to tie that to how it affects your frequency, some of you, how do you feel right after you have lunch? You have the itis, you ate a lot of pasta or carbs, you have the itis, you want to go to sleep, right? That is how much of your energy is going for that digestion, right? So if you begin to correlate that and you begin to make more conscious decisions, more aware decisions of, I'm not going to tell you, oh, you need to be a vegan and blah, 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 blah. I'm going to say, educate yourself. Look out there, test it with your body, see what your body responds best to, right? And if you find that eating more higher vibrational foods, meaning less cooked or more fruits and vegetables and less density of meat, you get to say that for your own body. I'm not here to tell you how to live your life and if you do this and do that. I'm here to share with you that if you just bring awareness into your everyday choices, you're going to take your power back in incredibly magnificent ways. So if we're looking at this, what you're looking at here is an experiment where they levitated this golf ball by frequency. And so if we know that there is a lot of correlation to when we look at the pyramids in Egypt, as well as other monolithic formations, that there is some way that that was formed and there was some way it was transported. And we begin to look on a larger scale of what affects our frequency. Now hospitals are bringing in sound therapy into the hospital. It's frequency. They're bringing in Reiki. It's frequency. So how do you know? Like, okay, so what is my frequency? How do I even begin to know what my frequency is? My frequency more positive? Is it not so positive? And this isn't about beating yourself up. It's about just being real, about finding out where you're currently, your state of beingness is at. And one of the ways that you can do this is just by simply asking yourself what you find comfort in. And I'm just pausing so that you can ask yourself that question. Do you find yourself in comfort watching movies that have a lot of drama or trauma? Right? Is that comfortable? Do you find comfort in that? Now, a lot of you here are like, no, absolutely not. I get it, but I'm just, where do you find comfort? And then who do you find comfort with? Do you find comfort with people that are more positive, that are more talking about how everything, the glass is half full, right? The optimism. Or do you find yourself talking about things that are more fear-based and worry-based, concern-based? Because we've all gone down the wormholes. But find out where you find your comfort. And that will begin to show you and reveal to yourself if you tend to gauge more on a positive side of things or more on a not so positive side of things. And don't be judgmental, because the second you're judgmental toward yourself, that judgment affects your frequency point. Every thought that you have, it affects your frequency point. And we can pretend like we don't have bad thoughts, but all of us, I wish I could be very animated right now, have gotten to those points, especially lately, where we're like, what the fill in the blank, right? But is there a way that we can watch this, be aware of it, but be so conscious and intentional about everything that we're doing, that we are intending our frequency at all times to be at the highest rate that it can be? So what raises your frequency? So if I now know that, no, so think about your thoughts. Do you tend to ruminate on worry or concern? Or do you laugh a lot? Or are you real serious? Just begin to ask yourself those questions without any judgment. And that's just going to tell you where you're at. And then if you say, I want to have more joy, more happiness in my life. I want to be able to manifest my best life, right? I want to evolve or allow the new consciousness that is bubbling up, that isn't new at all. It's always been there. We're not aware. You get to begin to ask yourself, and don't get too serious, because that's been the problem already. We forgot to laugh. My ancestors will say to you, when you say you anything is wrong, they'll say, when did you forget to laugh? When did you stop dancing? When did you stop singing? And it's because that which brings you joy, that which brings your happiness. A lot of you love what? If I'm talking about frequency, and that carries sound, and you love to listen to different things. Some of you love classical. Some of you might like jazz. That is, again, that is frequency. If it makes you feel good, if it uplifts you. Okay, I'm going to give you a little insight into who I am, because I've been just yammering a lot. When I'm in that place where I'm kind of down, I crank up The Devil Went Down to Georgia. I do. I crank it up, I sing it, and when the violin goes, I start going, right? I get into it. Why? It lifts me. It lifts my frequency. You can tell when people are happy. You can also tell when they're hiding that they're not happy. And everybody on here, most of you are very in touch with your own intuitions, your own, that little soft voice that's in there. So what if you could get more clear with that? It is tied to frequency. That is tied to the frequency point, because dimensions, as you transverse dimensions, so the string theory, quantum physics, quantum mechanics, I'm just dropping that in. If you guys have questions and anything, you're like, wait, say that again, or what about this? If you are changing dimensional states, if we know we're in this time of great change, and we all know that it's changing, the frequency is also changing. So if we're in this place where there is great change, and you know how to harness the ability of your own frequency, you get to decide how gentle, with grace and ease, so to speak, you go through this process. And we each get to do that. So if we're transversing dimensions or ascending, or the earth plane is raising, the Schumann resonance is raising. We're getting help from everywhere. The earth is helping us because when her vibration increases, our vibration increases. We're getting solar flares, several X flares. There's been lots of alignments in the sky. All these different books, mysticism talk about signs in the sky, all of these things, right? So as you're going through these dimensions, you have to be able to alter your frequency. If not, it's kind of like a force field. And so I'm going to get a little woo-woo. I've already been a little woo-woo. But think of Star Trek, shields up. And I'll give you an example. You come in, you're super happy, you're super excited, you're in a good mood, right? A friend of yours comes up and all of a sudden is just rifling angry. And immediately you begin to shift, or you pull them into more of your frequency, or you'll exit each other's fields because it'll be uncomfortable. So if we're going to the highest or ascending into different dimensions, through different dimensions, the earth plane is ascending, you're ascending, your frequency point is going up, the Schumann resonance is going up. We've had the X class flares that have been direct hits on the earth plane. Where there's light, where there's photonic light, there is a tremendous amount of frequency. So you're being affected, your entire body, physically, mentally, emotionally, energetically, is being helped to amplify. It's easier if in those times, you know, now with intention, I'm going to choose how I eat. With intention, I'm going to choose what I watch, what I listen to, right? Everything that I consume in every way, I'm going to look at it and I'm going to intentionally bring it into a positive state of beingness. Now, I'm not saying close your eyes and be one of these beings that says, oh, I can never know what's going on because I don't want it to affect my frequency. That is not what we came here to do. And that's just irresponsible. And you guys wouldn't be on here if you didn't realize that about who you are right now as a being. So you came to harness the greatest frequency that you can get so that you can change what's going on. And so that these things that we know are going on that are less than pleasant and are deeply disturbing at times, instead of being a part of that problem, we actually become a part of the solution, because we intend our own energy and we do not allow ourselves to be hijacked. And what I mean by that is we watch the news or something that is not giving you the full truth or the full story, right? And you don't really know the full story, and everybody around you thinks they might know a version of that full story. But just like I talked earlier about truth being relative to where your conscious state is, this is where we might all be right. It's where we're at. It's where our consciousness state is, which is based on that frequency. So if you begin to intend and with intention, choose your thoughts that have vibrations, choose your words, choose the energy and motion, your emotion. You know, when you're starting to get heated, you also know how to get unheated. Don't allow it to be. That's where it gets hijacked, is you watch something that is not necessarily all truth and you become enraged because there are things that, well, naturally, I still haven't transcended the human form where I can know that there are certain things going on and not have a glitch or some anger rise up. But it's not about not having the anger. It's about how you consciously direct that. Do you allow it to simmer? And then when you're out and about, you become charged. Somebody cuts you off. They didn't see you. They pulled out in front of you. They really, I don't think people intentionally almost get hit, right? But if we're in certain charged states because we didn't do something with that anger and that anger stayed there, it does affect your frequency. And then you begin to talk about things that make you angry. And you begin to think more about things that make you angry. And then it becomes like this roller coaster where it's just this spiraling down, 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 down. And that's a problem right now with the state of the world. People are so disconnected from each other that a lot of people are in suffering with huge depression and anxiety. That also is a frequency. So I'm going to tell you something that's really cool. You can actually put in at the vet, they have these handheld devices that you can actually put in a code. That code is a frequency of, let's say, a muscle relaxer for your dog. And with the handheld device, it's like a laser, and they're just lasering your dog. They're not touching your dog. They're all the way across the room from your dog, but you can see that your dog's muscles respond, and that you can see the tension and the relaxation. And then you see your dog relax, and you see your dog be able to sit down. And it's amazing, right? We've had so many scientific advancements that you could just have a handheld device and know the code for different medicines, put it in there, and not even have to get close to the person. Isn't that beautiful? Or absolutely terrifying if you think it falls in the wrong hands? We get to choose. We get to say, okay, yes, that's absolutely beautiful, but let's also be aware, right? But it's already in existence today. And if we know that your frequency is affected by everything you eat, you drink, you consume, medicines you take, things you listen to, if we know everything affects your frequency in some way, then you become a little bit more aware of where that is at. I'm done with the slides, Ellen. I don't know if that matters. And what you do is you begin to draw back to yourself those places where maybe you are in trauma, or even right now, that there are people that have received some great emotional trauma from what has been going on for the last couple of years. And in that, we tend to leave a part of ourselves there. You could call that a soul fragment, or you could call it an energy imprint, or you could call it some of your vitality or some of your frequency. You actually get to draw that back to you. And in drawing that back to you, you become more whole. And then becoming more whole means that you have more control over how quickly you engage your energy and things that you don't really want to help create. You get to start to retract that and say, no, I've been giving my power. I get up in the morning, I'm totally fine. I turn on the news, and then by the time I get my day started, I'm already ticked off. I'm already steaming, right? That is a dramatic effect. You get to choose if you're going to turn it on. You get to choose if you're going to turn it off. You get to choose if you now, with the knowing that we are all frequency and everything that is in existence is a frequency. And we know everything affects that frequency, but we also know how to make choices that align us to our goal. Then we can truly gather all of that power back. And I'll give you an example that's a really easy example. So think about someone who, let's say you had an encounter with that you've had a really hard time getting over it in some way, right? You've let go of it a lot. You've done a lot of healing, right? You think you've healed it, but it took you a long time. Just think of, okay. And you're like, no, I've healed this. All of a sudden, you walk into your local coffee shop and there stands that person. What's your body's reaction? What's your reaction? What's your energetic reaction? What happens immediately? That is going to tell you if you actually have healed it or not. That is going to tell you the power that that person still has that belongs back with you. They still have part of your frequency imprint, and it's not yours. It's not theirs to carry. It's yours to gather back. And as you do that, you begin to look through a different lens. It's not that all of a sudden the world's going to look rosy. It is that you're going to begin to see that your impact on the world is having a better impact. Things are going to reflect back to you that bring you more into that happiness, that joy. Because that is where you're wanting your frequency. If I say, how many of you want to walk around angry? Go ahead, jump up. Be like, yeah, I just absolutely love how it makes my body feel. And my head loves it. And my digestion, whoa, it rocks. Right? No, it doesn't. That affects all of your systems. It affects your endocrine system, your respiratory system. It affects kidney function. It affects the water that is in your body that is now either going to be crystallizing in peace and love and gratitude and all of that beauty, or it's going to be in a cluttered, jammed up state where it can't get energy movement going. And so you say, I'm powerless. How am I supposed to change all that that's happening out there? I say, you can't. You have to change this. Changing this changes that. But if you try to change that before you change this, it doesn't work that way. It's not the law of physics. It's not the cosmic laws. It's not the spiritual laws. It isn't the way energy moves. That just doesn't work that way. So when you know that, you put yourself in a greater state of frequency, a higher vibration. And I'm going to do a little test, not so much test. I want you to follow me for a moment. We're going to become aware of where your frequency is just now, in the now moment. Now, don't get irritated. I just want you to close your eyes. I know nobody's really looking anyways. Close your eyes and just come to your breath for a minute. And now I want you to make your breath a little bit longer, meaning we tend to not breathe deeply and fully. So I want you to begin to breathe your breath full and deep. And I just want you to take notice of where you're at energetically. Are you excited? Are you irritated? Are you happy? Where do you sense? Are you in a more elevated state? Now, again, just witness your breath. And as you breathe, begin to create more space in your breath. Don't grab at it, but make it longer and deeper and wider. And when you're all the way full, I just want you to take in a little bit more air and just hold and feel what that feels like. And then exhale. And as you exhale, I just want you to think about letting go. Let go of expectations, thoughts. Where are we going? What does this have to do with anything? I don't understand. Just every exhalation, you go completely empty. And when you're fully empty, you again hold and feel what that feels like. And then breathe in as if you're breathing in the smells of a beautiful spring day, but only if you don't have allergies. And I just want you to begin to let go again of any of that residual thing that's happening about your thoughts. And as you breathe, you're just, again, finding some place to rest in gratitude. Maybe you're grateful for your health. And every inhalation, you're pulling in more and more and more of that gratitude. And every exhalation, you're letting go of what is in contradiction to that gratitude. What is the opposite of that? And every time the mind is trying to wander or get you back or try to make you focus somewhere, just come back to gratitude. Maybe you're grateful for the people you have in your life. Or you're grateful for this circle. Maybe. Now begin to add gratitude. Like some of you might really enjoy spending time with certain people in your life, or maybe you have a grandchild, or maybe you have a partner, or maybe you have a puppy or a kitty. And I just want you to magnify that gratitude for a moment. And if you're allowing yourself to be in that gratitude, allow yourself to feel the space that that gratitude brings. Now just take note of where your state of beingness is. Are you in a different state? Have you shifted at all? Has anything changed? Is it in a more elevated place? Meaning gratitude vibrates even higher than love. If you know that your emotions also are your energy in motion, you can decide every moment your response and therefore your reaction, which is you sending out your own frequency, your own pulse, your own energy. So whatever you want to bring into your life, you can visualize that. You can assist that by already feeling you receiving that and being in gratitude for that. So how do you affect your frequency? Meditation, movement, what you consume, how much time you spend in nature. There's a reason why the indigenous and aboriginal people stay in nature, because it does affect the frequency. If you don't believe me, go camping for just a little while and then come back to where you live and see the difference. It is you controlling the frequency that you decide what you want to participate in. If you don't decide what you are going to participate in, by you not deciding, you have decided. There isn't, well, if I make no choice, it's not really a choice. A non-choice is a choice. So you get to decide what part on this planet and this beautiful awakening that we're in, what you're going to do with that. If you listen to frequency, like salvatio frequency. Even when you're not listening and your ear isn't picking up, if you live in the city, you have frequency inundated, even if you can't hear it in your auditory. You want to offset that, you want a more positive frequency, then you get to choose. So again, I want to take this kind of from woo-woo and say, okay, so we talked about meditation, and parts of meditation can be chanting. And so I'm going to take you to a study that in Japan, they have these doctors that they do ultrasounds on tumors. And they find the tumor, and then the doctors actually create a circle around the patient's bed. These are medical doctors. These are not doctors that are not board certified, haven't been trained. They have it on ultrasound. And while they chant and visualize the tumor going away, you can actually see the tumor disappear. Again, it's frequency. So how important is frequency? Well, if everything's frequency, then you tell me how important it is. If everything stems back to frequency, I only know what I know, which is not a lot. I know a drop in the bucket, and the more you get to know, the more you know you don't know. What we do know is we do know that the earth is raising her frequency. We don't know why. We do know that energetically, between solar flares and planetary alignments, that the frequency is shifting and changing. We do know that before great change, there's typically kind of a birthing process. And so if you know your frequency is tied, you are the doulas of this new paradigm. And I don't say that in a woo-woo-y way. I'm very science. I have to have, my left hemisphere has to have something to chew on. If it doesn't have something, if there's nothing there, I get caught in intellect, right? Just because it's not there, I want us all to remember that there have been great advancements since quantum science came out that we did not know. And the change that has happened is quantum. And you are a part of that. And you get to decide literally how strong of a force you are going to be. And it's simply by you taking back your power. All of those things where you left frequency imprints. And then you become aware of what you're watching, what you're listening to, what you're talking about. You might pick up a practice of yoga or Tai Chi or Qigong. There's lots of different practices. But you begin to take responsibility for your own frequency and what that's creating in our earth plane. Because right now we're seeing kind of where we've created. And a lot of us are like, we didn't create that. Well, every time we've allowed ourselves to be hijacked in that anger, that rage, that separation, that duality, that we did add to it. And that's where we just take responsibility of it and decide that we can change it. So laugh more, dance more, sing more, right? Do things that bring you joy. Quit being so serious. Why? It's boring. No. It's just utter boringness.
I've been trying to do that. I've been trying to remind people that we are just children and we've grown up, but we've been manipulated. There's a huge manipulation at play right now. And with this group, they know me very well because I share so many different levels, just like you and I got into conversation and we were just bouncing off each other because we have the information, and it's just now disseminating what we have learned with other people to help them don the glasses to see, because we're all still children. We just have to find our inner child again, and no judgments. I think we are our biggest critics of ourselves, and that's what keeps us from creating, because it's the child inside each of us that creates. Absolutely.
And if you think about it as frequency, and you go back to, if you allow that child to come back, that childlike wonder, right? That childlike excitement, that childlike joy, you can imagine if we then took and crystallized what it would look like. And you're being a part of that in a conscious way. And it's fun. And we get to be a kid again. And we are all just big kids in bodies, thinking that we're grown-ups masquerading around on this play of life, and we're just taking it too seriously. Let us get back to that place, Ellen, the place where we can get to that place where it is okay. Children don't walk into a room and are like, I don't like you, you're not like me, you don't look like me, you don't walk like me, you don't talk. No, they go right into a room and they're like, hey, how are you doing? I want to be your friend. You be my friend. I like your shoes. Right?
Exactly.
I mean, as adults, we get too serious. We're like, oh, I really want to talk to that person, but oh no, but no, because no. Why? If we just walked up and said, hey, I don't know you, but I want to get to know you, and I don't want to in a weird way. I know this is going to seem weird, and you make a joke about it, but you're like, there's a reason why you're drawn to that person. There is like energy draws like energy. And how many times are we told over and over and over and over again that we already have manifested what is happening?
Yeah.
It's us that did it. We just forgot to be childlike and joyful. When we did our creation point, we decided to be serious and afraid and angry, right? Instead of that childlike place. And if you just take it back to, your thoughts are creating vibrations within your physical body, your blood, right? So now look at Dr. Emoto and go to Bruce Lipton. I'm sure a lot of you know who he is, stem cell biologist, Bruce Lipton. He took and applied Dr. Emoto's work and said, what if I applied this to stem cells? Now, this is where we're getting hot now.
I know, right?
We're starting to ramp it up a little bit. So what if I did this with stem cells? So what he did is he did that. And he found that literally the stem cells responded to the environment in which he placed them, which then made him say, what is the environment within the human body? So when he did these stem cells, he thought one group of stem cells all going to develop in the same exact way. No, they all developed all differently. So that led him down doing a lot of research. Now he travels and he has written books, Biology of Belief, and how you literally can program your cells. Your cells are programmable. They're like a computer, believe it or not. And so what he did is he took that and he applied it to stem cells, which gave us a physical reference point of how frequency, which is our environment. So our thoughts create ripples throughout all of our blood vessels, right? Is it a positive or is it a not so positive? What vibration is that given out? And then that's flowing into your skin, your tissues, your bone. It's also transmitting outside of you. It's why your skull bones actually have sutures, because believe it or not, that whole Om thing that they do, there's a ton of science about how it rattles the skull bones and what it does and its effect on anxiety and depression and blood pressure issues and heart issues. It's crazy, the science that's out there. But we now have this science that tells us that if we are thinking in a more positive state of beingness, we are affecting our cellular structure. We're affecting how our respiratory system is. You don't believe me? Get angry and watch your breath. Right? Just get angry and watch what your breath does. People be like, oh, I wasn't breathing. Right? Again, we're just too serious. We getting back to that place where we can all get on groups like this and dive. I don't know it all. You might have pieces of the puzzle, and I'm sure you do. I don't. And that's why we come together as a group, is so that we can take these pieces and we can say, okay, now every single book that we know that people read, it talks about what you send out comes back in some way. That's a law of physics. That isn't woo-woo. That's a law of physics, right? What you send out is going to return to you. So if we have more joy, more childlike conversations, more childlike activities, like, okay, guys love to have sleepovers. I'm waiting for shifts. You want to know why? They do. They do it going hunting, just like girls like to have sleepovers. We do it when we get together and we have these groups and we spend the night and we have retreats and we do these things. We're big kids, you guys. Big kids. Step into that and then look and say, okay, so if I know Dr. Emoto's work, I know Bruce Lipton's work, all of these science, those are only two. There is a ton of science out there that validates that you are creating all of the time. And when you think you're not creating, that is a deep illusion that is like a black hole. You are creating every moment, every second, you are creating. So you get to decide, knowing that, am I going to now consume things that are going to put things up here that bring joy and happiness and excitement and childlike wonder and curiosity? And I get to decide what I'm going to do. I get to decide if I'm going to stand and get into an argument with somebody when I know they think they're right and they're doing what they believe will keep them safe, whatever that means. Can I do that? Well, if we don't get back to that childlike wonder and realize that to take control of here is taking control of our frequency, because our mind is always chattering. If anybody in here going to say, my mind doesn't, I have just the quietest mind. Especially, especially I see you, Stacy, especially right now, right? How can we have a quiet mind? But we learn and we take control by simply making the change here, which by the law of physics, we're connected to everything. Quantum entanglement. Took an atom. They were entangled. They were in the same space at the same time, right? They separated them. A scientist went and flew around the world, took that atom into a different lab on the other side of the world, would stimulate this atom, and this atom would change on the other side of the world at the exact same moment because they had been quantum entangled. So now stay with me for a moment. How many people have you quantum entangled with? Quantum entangled doesn't mean sex. Let's be clear. Quantum entanglement means I was in the same space. My energy came within 7 feet of another person's energy, right? And it can be even more than that, right? How many people are you quantum entangled with? Millions, billions, right? How do you think that moms and dads automatically know when something happens with one of their children or with their parent? It's because they're quantum entangled. If they're not distracted, meaning they don't have all this blaring noise coming at them, and they're just driving in their car, nothing's happening, and all of a sudden they go, something's wrong. Why? Quantum entanglement. Now, how many have you entangled with? And those people entangled. So now you're entangled with the people that you just entangled with that person with, now who they're entangled with. So we literally are one organism. This brings a whole different ideology to, oh yes, we're all one. That means it literally means we're all connected. It literally means that if there's a large enough shift and a large enough people, it affects the entire web or grid, if you want to call it. So you're doing something real and you're doing something big, and you can put it in science, and I can give it to you in a dissertation of physics, or I can give it to you one-on-one, down to earth, meet us where we are. This is where we're at. We are all in this together, and there is science that validates that we are all commingled into one great organism. And in that, when you shift you, it shifts others. And it's in every choice we make, every single one. That is your power, even in the small choices. When somebody says something and they're a little bit sharp, and you don't speak your truth, you like close up, you now shifted your frequency. What if you just looked at them and said, oh, I can tell you're having a bad day. Is there anything that I can do to help? Right? What if we just change the way we're looking at it? Like, I'll tell you some gifts that just frequency shifts that has shifted your frequency that you have personal reference to. When you were very afraid of something at one time, and now you are not. Maybe it was COVID, right? Maybe it was when it first came out, freak out. Maybe you're still there, right? How did that change your frequency point? For the better, higher, more childlike, more joy, more happiness, more, right? No, it didn't. And now what are we doing? There used to be a saying that was, if every 8-year-old in the world learned how to meditate, all crime would go away. But now our 8-year-olds are afraid. They're scared. They don't know what to do. They're not allowed to touch their play buddies. Do you understand? So we're taking and we're choosing where we're allowing not only our frequency, but the greater frequency of all, of everything. And if we take up arms and we go, I'm going to beat it into their head, whatever my opinion is, or whatever my truth is, we're just adding to it. That's all we're doing when we try to take it up that way. When we say, I'm going to be in charge of my frequency and I'm going to raise my frequency as much as I can, I'm going to intentionally eat, I'm going to intentionally think, I'm going to intentionally create, I'm going to take control of whether I slip into anger or not, I'm going to take control of what I watch, what I read, how long do I spend in it, how far down the rabbit hole do I go. For as much as you spend going down the rabbit hole, you should spend twice as much doing laughter, joy, dancing, becoming childlike, as Ellen said, right? I don't know about you guys, but it's too serious. And with seriousness, we do have to take something serious. There are things to be taken serious. I am not that woo-woo. If you know me in person, which some of you do, you know I am not that woo-woo. I will go to the front line of anything for the right, for the goodness, for the protection, I have no problem with using my voice and stepping up and standing out, right? As many of you don't. It takes all of us to be able to step up, step out in any way that we can, big or small, doesn't matter, but take control of what we ourselves are doing. Meaning, if we get together and we laugh more, guess what? You're vibrating out quantumly out across dimensional states of being into the world. Are you not? Right? So our bodies are an important part because our bodies are like antennas, if you want to say. I'll just say it this way. Every single one of you know what it feels like to be lied to. Every single one of you know what it feels like to be lied to. You instantly know. There's a shift in your energy frequency and you go, not truth. There's some non-truth right there, right? And because we're scared kids, we want to be accepted. So that person may have lied because they feel unworthy in some way, right? But you have that internal state where you can do that. You can do that in every place, with every situation, from the very smallest to the very largest. And when you do it where two or more are gathered, whether it's in person or not, it does not matter. Time and space is not, I know that you guys are on board and you know 3D, 4D, 5D, 7D. We are shifting. We have shifted. Our reality point now is shifting, but you get to decide by creating here, raising here, this frequency. Naturally, the people in your home will be affected. The people that live around you will be affected. The people at work will be affected. The people that you go to the gym or to the coffee shop, because you're going to quantumly entangle. And that just continues forward. So that's how you take your power back. Everybody says, I can't do anything about it. And I go, if you think you can't, you're right.
Yeah, exactly. It's your thoughts creating your own reality.
Exactly. And we'll all sit here and say, but we know we can. Then keep doing groups like this. Keep taking yourself into those places where you just say, am I being childlike right now? Am I laughing? Am I playing? Am I enjoying? Or am I getting consumed by the world? Mm-hmm. Right? If you want to go back to, be in the world, but not of the world. And you're getting all of these amazing supports from all of the interdimensional beings. They're giving you all these signs. There are so many Mandela effects. I cannot even, timelines are collapsing onto one another. There's so much.
Yes.
That it can't be hidden anymore.
It's the great awakening, the great shift, but they're also calling it the great resignation because people are going into their heart space and saying, no more, I don't want to do this anymore.
And there is a lot of that, but you guys, you decided to come here now. It would be boring any other way. You decided to come here. You get to decide now. Look, Stacy's like, I don't think so. No, really, seriously, you decided. We decided we were going to come at this point in time and we were going to bring some joy back and we were going to bring some happiness back and we were going to actually be the ones that said, no, I'm going to take responsibility for my frequency point. I'm going to take responsibility for what I'm deciding to create. And I first have to then evaluate my own thoughts, because that's where we really get glitched. We're really great with telling everybody how wonderful they are and how awesome they are and how beautiful they are, how amazing they are, right? But then we look in the mirror and we don't say that to yourself. You don't even think that, especially the men. There's so much that's just been duality of male and female, and it isn't that anymore. We need masculine, we need feminine. It's both. We're yin and yang. We are both. To deny anyone is to deny part of you. we just need to look out and see that we are a part of that great grid and take responsibility for the dance that we're dancing on our thread that's affecting everybody else's dance, right? And are we dancing, or have we sat down and we're sulking because we're confused and we don't know who to listen to? And you listen to one doctor and it said this and somebody else that said that, and then you try to educate people and they scream fake news, and you're like, no, that's real science, man. It's on PubMed, right? So we just, again, get back to the easier way of broaching something. It doesn't have to be, I'm going to fight with you. It can be, I'm going to stand here and listen to you because you might know something that I don't know yet. And I'm not going to judge it. I'm just going to have a conversation. And at the end of the conversation, we still can agree to disagree because we are perpetually evolving and growing. Every thought makes a ripple. Every emotion sends you on a timeline. So you get to decide what frequency timeline you're going to be on. And when I say that, I mean, literally, are you, every decision that you make, if you make it in an emotional state that is a denser state, you will be creating something that's of a denser creation, which is of a denser vibration, which is of a denser frequency, which then is going to bring you more of what you don't want. Right? Mm-hmm. So if people don't want to smile and laugh with you, they don't want to giggle and have fun, they want to get too serious all the time, it's okay. Just don't spend all of your time there. Some of us have parents that are really serious. It's okay. Love them. But just know, get back to where you can feel your own cup. Get back to where you're listening to your frequency. Listening to frequency while you sleep is huge to change and shift your frequency point. Huge. So if you find yourself, I wake up in the morning, I'm just angry, I'm just this, I'm just that, blah, 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 blah. Try listening to frequency, right? And pay attention to what your dreams are telling you, because your dreams are trying to drop in information. It's just in a symbolic way. And that does affect, again, your frequency point, right? Eat better, drink better, laugh more. This is about you taking your power back. It's not about you becoming some stuffy stick in the mud. It's about you becoming the opposite of that. It's about us all doing it, right?
Yep. It's each of us doing the introspection, because we can't change others, but we can change ourselves. And that is what the Kabbalah teaches too, with the tree of life and all the information there is based on introspection. And you don't know about this, Sylina, but we just had a Crystal Brigade meeting where we talked about some of these concepts, where when you're working with a crystal, and Marcel Vogel knew best, you can actually not only work with the quantum field. A crystal only amplifies that which is already there, which is your thoughts, which are scalar waves. And the crystal cut into a scalar wave form with multiple facets amplifies those thoughts. So we did some remote healing. We did distance healing on Friday night during the Crystal Brigade. And one of the concepts that Marcel talked about was that you can actually take an essential oil or some sort of herbal liquid substance, put it onto the tip of a crystal, and do this process where you breathe it into the ether and send it directly to whomever you want that to receive, go to the recipient. But we can do this. It is mostly us. The crystal's nothing more than a tool. But it, again, is another scientist who is absolutely proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that our thoughts affect things all around us. He studied Dr. Masaru Emoto. You know, he talked about that because he actually cut his crystals to resonate at the same frequency of water, which is the 454 hertz. And there's so many things out here now. That's why it's so amazing to be alive in this time. Because I used to think that I didn't fit in. And now more than ever, I know that my purpose here was to take in and absorb all of this information so that I could then broadcast it out here like a farmer with seeds and say, please go out here in the world and start looking at some of these things of which I speak, so that you can also receive some of the rains of knowledge, because it is raining down on us. We have this ability with this internet to either feed and grow with our knowledge, or to have it consume us with this lower states of consciousness.
Exactly. You're saying exactly what we've been talking about all the way around. Energy transcends everything, right? So there's no time, there's no space. We can use the tool, we can put different medicines on, or we can simply intend, right? Maybe we don't have a wand. It is us, it is you sending your energy to it. It is you are doing the work. So it's not just, you have tons of scientists that have gone through this. Robert Monroe from the Monroe Institute, he started doing frequency. He opened the Monroe Institute in 1950. Gosh, now y'all are testing me. 7, I think, might be 3. I could be wrong, but somewhere around there. And it was that when there was frequency played, he was a radio businessman. But what happened is that the school teachers started to take note that when the kids listened to certain radio, the radio was on when they were taking a test, that they scored better. And so that made him go into how does signals actually affect the brainwave patterning, right? Theta, beta, delta, taking us in and out of those states, right? So we're all coming together in groups like this to learn or remember, I prefer to say remember, that we are bigger than what we've been taught, and most of what we've been taught is true illusion. My grandma used to say there's an upside down world, that if they tell you one thing, look in the opposite direction, you'll find the truth. So again, it's about us just reclaiming that power and knowing that when we do it, here's the placebo effect. We're back to it. When we do it and we believe it's happening, it's happening. But if I am healing and I believe it's happening, but the person that I am working with does not believe they can be healed, I will promise you, no one will be able to heal them, because their free will says, and it trumps all things. So I see a question over here with Connie. Are we allowed to take questions?
Oh, yes, of course. Please, Connie, unmute your microphone.
Okay, thank you. Your information was just absolutely just spot on. And just a few little things that I wrote down while you were talking, and I believe it was Dr. Emoto that I listened to, and he said, if you write like on your water bottle the word love, it will actually change the frequency of the water. So I started doing that, and everybody, because everybody at work, has water bottles, and they all knew which one was mine because I was the only one that had love written on my water bottle, and they couldn't understand it. So I told them it changed the frequency of the water. But one of the things that I say to myself every day is, I am the love, I am the light, as above, so below. And I say that every morning, so it kind of sets my day. But another thing, and I'm not sure if everybody's aware of this, you're talking about going into the quantum. Pluto is actually in Capricorn right now. and it's actually on 2/22/22, going to return to Aquarius for the first time since the United States was born. Once it goes and completes its cycle and comes back in 2023 to Aquarius, it says Pluto enters Aquarius, launching the inevitable reboot of the Matrix. The rules of reality and the limits of consciousness are about to go quantum. Those who assert their originality now will face centering and quantum healing. But sooner than later, we're all going to approach that. So we're going into that age of Aquarius, and everything is going quantum, everything. So that's all that I had to say. Oh, I did have a question on meditation. Like at night when you meditate, what is 454 the best frequency?
It depends on what you yourself are working on. So every hertz does something a little bit different. Some people really like to sleep with 528. They say that that's the tone for miracles. That's the tone of love. Some people like to work with 963. That is somebody that is trying to learn how to communicate more with their extrasensory skills or extra senses, right? So it depends on, some people are trying to liberate themselves out of a fear of some sort.
Right.
So 96 would be a better. You can Google it. It'll list it out. But what I found is, listen, the one that is right for you, you will have no doubt. Meaning, when you look at it and you say, hey, I need to find something in 528, and you Google 528 hertz, you will have a ton of things come up. You'll be naturally drawn to one, whichever one that is your higher self telling you what you need. Does that make sense? We're always looking outside of ourselves, but when you literally just ask yourself that question, you'll be drawn to the one that you're currently needing the most.
Okay. I didn't know if there was a right or a wrong one. You know, you hear so many different things, so that makes sense. That makes sense.
Thank you. Yeah, we have our own intellect. So always know that you have your own intuition. You have your higher self that's always communicating with you. And so what you're being drawn to, if you're using discernment, it is something that's going to assist you in your journey in some way. You may not understand it at the moment. I mean, how many times have we all been there? We didn't have any idea when we were going through it. But down the road, we look back and we went, wow, because of that, this and this and this. So listen to yourself, because that is also owning your own power, is not allowing everybody else to make your choices for you, and not trying to collect what everybody else thinks before you make a decision on which side of the fence you land. You are an incredible being with expansive intellect. Listen to yourself and be okay if you are different than somebody else. If you have a different opinion to somebody else, it's okay. Just remember, everything that you're doing, it does affect your frequency. So do it consciously, and let's have enjoyment while we're at it.
Yes, exactly. So I wanted to mention though, too, we had another guest, Sylina, that you don't know about. Her name is Lena. And she mentioned, because she was, she was an engineer herself, but she knew a lot about the different frequencies and things. But she said to me that the digital hertz that we listen to online is completely different from the analog hertz, and that it does matter. So when we listen to these things online, they are not the same frequencies as what you would get from an analog device. Now, I don't know what kind of differences there may be, but she was explaining it to us in one of the videos recently.
There's purity of sound. And when you're talking about frequency, it's dramatically affected by cycle and the cycle and how acute the equipment is and translating it, because some of the frequencies are so subtle that it's lost if you don't have it with analog. You're getting the closest that you can, but you're not getting the purity of it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I would say if you can, if you have, it's not that difficult, go out, get yourself an ability to be able to listen to pure frequency. And don't depend on it to be fed to you through some other venue, right? You can choose it. You get to decide. You get to decide how many times, how long, how often. I perpetually have frequency going. I'm known for it. People will tell you if you are around me, I always have some sort of frequency, because our earth plane has a frequency, but we're also being inundated with frequencies that are counter, meaning they're not as helpful for our energetic structure. And so I'm constantly trying to offset what I'm being subjected to, not by my own choice, kind of by my own choice, but not by my own choice. So yes, Ellen, you are absolutely correct.
Yeah, so I mean, I wish that there was some way for us to get the things that are more pure from online sources, but I'm not sure where to find any kind of information like that. I don't have an analog generator myself, because I would love to do some of the sand experiments with the cymatics and to watch the formations of the patterns and just to play again, you know, because I know there's a scientist in me that wants to come out and use some of these different concepts to go out here and heal everything. Because I look into the orgone energy and the orgonite that people make, and then the crystal usage and how they amplify the charges. And people have made this orgonite, these cloud busters from Wilhelm Reich's work, and they are healing the earth and changing the chemtrails and changing all the frequencies. This is the stuff that I am passionate about. I feel like I want to be that mad scientist to start saying, well, what if we put this technique with this technique and then made this other thing? You know, that's kind of where I am right now. And I just wanted to extrapolate a little further too on all of the krillin photography. Mm-hmm. What you're looking at, you know, when I pointed out the purple field, plants have the absolute highest frequency because they are out in the sunlight every day, all day. They are green because green is the color of the heart chakra. And when we start to take on the light that the plants have, remember, you are what you eat. You can then start charging your light body, which is your cells, which is the entire being that you possess right now. And you can actually start to, I've been hearing my friends say this recently, my friends are starting to levitate. And I'm not even kidding, because of the frequencies that are rising. These people who are out here, and it seems to be right now, people with type O blood type, because I'm always asking, what blood type are you? And they say type O. And I'm like, okay, makes sense to me, because they have a different DNA construct that allows these interesting abilities to start to manifest. And I don't know if any of you guys have noticed any kind of changes in your innate abilities. I would say maybe you're hearing things more often, or maybe you're seeing movement in the corner of your eye more often, or, you know, things of that nature. That is the us. That's the us that's been hidden for so long, starting to come out again. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And yeah, we're coming back, you know. We have a crystalline body. So again, this is what Marcel Vogel goes into. Our bones are crystal. Our spine is pyramids on top of pyramids. It amplifies, but that the records are written in bone. and memories are stored in our cellular structure. We are just antenna out here, giving and sending, all of this information that is coming from the cosmos, coming from each other. And once we get on board, where we lose all judgment of ourselves and others, we will change. Absolutely. Like, you're going to just see this wave, a blanket of quantum entanglement that quells all of the chaos out here in the world, because we will be bringing the light. When you step into your power of being the light, by consuming light, by listening to light, by being higher than you've ever been in all your life, you're going to start affecting everyone around you, everyone. And this is the power. But again, we have to remind ourselves, don't give your power away unless you want to, because it's your free will is at play right now. And the dark magicians are trying to trick everyone into giving this power away by saying, do you want to take this vaccine? Take this vaccine. Or they're trying to make you take the vaccine. Or they're saying, hey, why don't you sign this contract or that contract? Why is it all of a sudden people are coming out with these contracts, around the world? Oh, peace contract, love contract, whatever contract, man of God, whatever it is. Why these contracts? Why? Why do we have to sign a contract to say, I love, I am peaceful, I am is the power. Don't give your power away unless it's something, if you know that it's something good and benevolent, then think about it, But again, we also spoke about the med beds. We are very concerned. We, Lena and myself, try to have an intelligent conversation about what we're dealing with med beds. Is the technology out there? Yes, absolutely. Benevolent technology is coming. But right now, we have powers that be that are trying to trick people, again, into giving up their soul, their will, their sovereignty, their consent. I will not be tricked. I am going to make sure absolutely, before I ever go run out here to a med bed for any reason, that I know absolutely beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is coming from benevolent forces and that it will not harm me in any way. Because what they've done is this great grab for people's DNA, which is them. That DNA is a coded source for their soul, basically. And now that PCR test, it is replicating. It has the ability to replicate all of that DNA. They've already said that they want to 3D print this. Why? What are they doing? These are the questions we should have. So that's why I say, with all my heart and all my passion, please, please do your research. Don't give away your free will so easily, because we have Decepticons in our midst, and we need to be 360 degrees aware of what is going on. Sorry to have hijacked the conversation, but I am just, I want
to it's beautiful. And what I love about what you were saying is you're like, everything you consume, I am, is the biggest statement you can make. There are tons of people. I mean, even our organization, we do an I am challenge where we do it as a group. We get people saying the I am, the positive, changing the way in which, taking back the power, because most of the time, the reason why we're giving away our power for our choice is because we don't feel like we can speak, because we don't feel like we're strong enough, we're articulate enough, whatever it is. The I am challenge, or I am, whatever you feel in, that is what you are. It is what you believe, and that is what you will become. That is what you will be geared towards. That is what your program will say. And you taking that back is going to help with what you're talking about, Ellen, with the not being deceived, being aware, having discernment. The more intuition, the higher your frequency is, the more your siddhas or your gifts of the spirit open that Ellen, you were talking about, the more that you're going to know. It's not going to be, oh, I need to go out and do all this research. You're going to immediately know, no, this isn't. Then you can go out and find what it is. But sometimes you're going to need to know in the now moment. You're not going to have time to go rushing off and have days and days and days of lots of research. Sometimes things happen and you need to make a decision. You need to be able to do that from that point. So, Ellen, I am super grateful. If I were to say on a leaving note, I would say, listen to what you're listening to. Are you listening to positive podcasts? Are you listening to Gaia TV? Are you listening to things that are uplifting? What are you listening to? What are you consuming? In every way, through your mouth, through your ears, through your eyes, and then take control of that. And then guess what we get to do? We get to play in a higher frequency point. And Ellen, all that stuff, all that deception, it goes away because it's a different timeline. And we have chosen to birth the earth into a different timeline. If you want to do the woo-woo, we'll say it that way.
I don't really consider it woo-woo since science is now proving that spirituality exists, it's so ridiculous. So what they did is they separated and compartmentalized everything. When science and spirituality are one, just like everything else is one.
Hey, that's beautiful. Thank you again, Ellen, so much. And, if people do, if we continue to do things like this, where we're coming together in any way, whether it's here, smaller groups, larger groups, but coming together and really doing it with intention, it's a really big deal. So thank you again. Thank you for listening. I'm grateful. I want to say, go out, make that dance on that thread that you sit upon on the grid of life and the matrix of the cosmos. Make it count for all that you ever wish, want, need, or desire.
Yeah, thank you. Does anybody have any questions though before we wrap up tonight? Does anybody wanted to ask her a question before she?
Oh, Lori's raising her hand. I see Lori. I have a question.
Hi, ladies. Thank you. This has been awesome. And so what are some devices that you get good analog from? I mean, do I go get a analog radio? I mean, I don't know. What do you do to get the purest frequency from?
That is a beautiful question, because right now you have several different schools of thought where people are saying this one, that one, another one. I do not have any personal reference point that I can actually give you that says this is the best, right? This is the best analog device. I can tell you, if you're having issues finding an analog device that is going to bring through pure sound, look at the reviews, because the people that are buying analog, they will go on and they will tell you, they will say, yes, this is pure sound. They actually hook up the, what is it? I don't know. Sorry, my brain does, the frequency meter, and it tells them, if it's picking up the pure frequency or if it's not. Until then, I would say places like you could get things that have been embedded like in CD form. And that would be a better way than what you're getting off an audio device like YouTube. Sorry, Amala's back. She says she wants to be a part of this. So I would say do your research. I wish I had something on that, but I don't want to mislead you. I don't know.
Yeah, I just put in the chat, Lori, if you would, I put my email in the chat, and you can contact me in an email. If you'll ask me the question, I will send it directly to Lena, because she may know the answer to that question.
Thank you so much.
Because I would actually personally like to know as well.
Yeah, because I am guilty of YouTube.
Exactly.
We all are guilty of YouTube. All of us. There's not one of us on here that hasn't done it. You do what you can do. You do the best that you can do with what you've got and what you have access to. And when there's something that's better, you can do that as well. I know that I do have some things on frequency on our site at soulmedicineinc.org, but I don't think it says anything about analog. Ellen, if you get an answer from Lena, would you mind? I would love it if you would share that information.
Okay.
Because it does make a difference. It's why they tell you listen to it on headphones a lot, is because of the sensitivity of the sound.
Okay, so my my holistic doctor in DC area said that when I listened to it, that if I had good quality earphones or headpiece on, because it works equally with the left brain, right brain, it was much more powerful than if you just played it audibly while you sleep.
So what he's talking about, what your doctor's talking about is bringing you into a coherent brain state. And what that means is there's one beat going in one ear and another beat going in another ear that's really inaudible, but it syncs up at a third beat. This is what the Monroe Institute does, is all of this kind of research. But what that does is it changes your brain state. So if I can put you into a theta state, I can put you into a deep, it's easy to have a deep meditation, right? So that's more what he's talking about. We're talking about the purity of that frequency, all of the subtleties that are in it, because you are a frequency being. So even the most subtle changes in frequency, you will pick up.
Okay. Powerful. Thank you.
Anything else, Lori? Is that all?
Nope, I'm good. Thank you.
All right. Does anybody else have any questions? I do actually. Something just came to my mind when we were talking about the different astrological signs. I just want to share this really quick. I'm going to share my screen. So I have been researching about the cell salts, the 12 cell salts in the body. And most people probably don't have this knowledge, but if you look at where Pisces is, down at about just below the 9 o'clock mark, Pisces, and then where the feet are, see there's a little human form in the middle there, and the feet. We are now going up to the ankles and the knees into the age of Aquarius. And, all of this is determined on the spring equinox of the year, like what age we're going into. That's how they make the determination. I found out all this stuff from Jordan Maxwell, that on the spring equinox of the year, if you go out and you look to the east where the sun rises, that these stars that represent these two constellations is actually on the horizon in that moment. And then that's what's starting to affect us to rise from the feet up to the knees. And so we're rising in frequency. And we will spend another 2,150 years in the age of Aquarius. And then again, there will be another shift in energy. I mean, we're constantly shifting slowly, but a big change will happen on the cusp between these years as we go through these different cycles of what's called the great year, all the way up to where basically the pineal gland and the crown chakra is. That is why we've been in these lower states of consciousness. And so I do recommend maybe looking at some of these books. That I have a book that has that on the cover, and it's called The 12 Cell Salts in the Body. You can learn about yourself through these astrotheological ideals that we are connected to the cosmos, and we're connected to the astrological signs above us through all of this knowledge, and that it represents different parts of our body. And based on your birth month, you need more of one cell salt than another. I mean, we could go on forever, but I just wanted to add that in there because it kind of ties into, the Kirlian photography and all of the things that we're talking about, and the body, and why are we seeing this change? It's all astrotheology, the study of and science of the stars.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, Mama Bear, that, the indigenous cultures, they know this stuff because they never lost it. They never lost the knowledge.
Well, it's interesting because when we're talking about the way energy moves, and we talk about frequency, and we talk about, the laws of physics and quantum mechanics and all of that, the Lakota, Dakota, Nakota people actually have a book that's in the Smithsonian Institute that's been proven that the symbols that talks about, each symbol is a law, a universal law and a cosmic law of how the actual cosmos works. And they've been able to trace it back 66,000 years. And so this is what's passed down from grandparents to parents to grandchildren is this information about how to work within these changes, how to see the ages that we're coming into as far as energy, new influences of energy, and how to use those cosmic laws to manifest and create in the strongest way. So the indigenous people have known this. They also know that if they stay close to nature, that their frequency is higher. If they are around water, that it's amplified. So they have this natural innate passing down of information, stories to children and grandchildren to teach them how to walk in the world, while at the same time also create and evolve and become and keep their connection with, whether you want to call it woo-woo or not. It's now definitely proven there are star beings. There are many different races. They do many different things. They've been talking to the indigenous people for years and years. They've been talking to the government for years. I mean, this is just, it is now a everyday conversation, but the indigenous people have always held the relationship with the star beings because we believe that we came from the stars and that we'll return to the stars. And so that our ancestors are in the stars. And so they're always helping to guide us, and that we didn't really originate as earth beings, that were a conglomeration of different imprints from different solar systems all together on the earth plane, creating and co-creating, but just not understanding and coming back into that awareness. Or the apocalypse, which is just from the Greek word that means an unveiling of knowledge. And I think all of us would agree we are definitely in a huge unveiling of knowledge.
Very true. Very true. I just want to thank you so much. Does anyone else have any questions before we close? If no one has any questions for Mama Bear, I want to thank you so much for your wisdom and for your knowledge and your gift of being here with us today. And with love and gratitude. Until we meet again, we can have any conversation at any time. Please reach out if you ever want to talk again. But I want to thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. And my culture, the way that we typically, when we're leaving, I will say doksha, and that just means I'll see you down the path. Doksha.
Doksha.
Namaste.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye. Good night, everyone.
Namaste.
Good night,
Thank you.
everybody. Thank you for joining.
Bye.